Hello everyone, this is Ryan from BoldFit. Today I am coming from the beautiful fitness house at 4350 Concourse. Please feel free to drop in. In addition, please subscribe to this YouTube channel. So, I'm going to start out a series of videos doing basic movements. Lifts, presses, and squats. And then I'll do some more in-depth videos kind of dissecting the minutiae of these various lifts. So you get further cues to essentially help you go through them. But today, Ryan's just gonna pick things up and put them down. We're gonna use a series of props from the very light to the very heavy and to the also very awkward. And as a result, we're gonna try to maintain some consistent cues throughout. The idea being safety, form, and function. So, let's get to work. So here are our 4 props for the day. First and foremost, a simple everyday household item. My keys, something you lift all the time. Believe it or not, you need to think about that too. Secondly, a kettlebell. It has some different purposes in the weight room, but also helps us think about how we lift things that have some mass to them, but also have a handle. Third, a loaded barbell. We'll do some conventional deadlift. Again, trying to maintain the same ideas of form and focus and postures throughout all of these. And finally, just to make it as awkward and annoying as possible, that's a 100-pound slam ball in the background. It's on the ground, it's kind of squishy, and it's really heavy. So, if we do this right, we can do everything safely, we can do it smart, and maybe get some benefit out of it. So let's start with the most elementary, my keys. So why are we using something so light and so everyday? Well, for one thing, it's easy to pick those things up without thinking about it. And the other is, honestly, I've hurt my back twice, and one was picking up a pen, not some awesome heavy weight. So it is important to think about our form, even when doing everyday activities. So as a kind of central core of what you're doing, I want you to always think about keeping your posture in a protected position so your back is protected, keeping whatever you're lifting close to you, and using your legs to be the actual moment that lifts you off the ground, not your back. So when I go down to pick up my keys, immediately I'm thinking about keeping my back safe. I'm not going to just bend over and do like I'm picking up a tortoise. I want to keep my back in a nice safe position, get the item that I'm going to pick up very close to me, bend down, pick it up, and when I come back up, I'm using my legs to drive myself. At no point did my back deviate from the initial angle. So as a side view, when I'm descending, my back stays safe, and the item I'm picking up does not come far away from my body. We're going to talk about that on all 4 props, because the further away from your body a device gets, the more leverage it creates on your lower back. We want to keep that to a minimum. So, next, let's talk about the kettlebell. Okay, how to lift a kettlebell properly and safely. So much like the keys, there are some consistent things we want to keep doing. Namely, we want to start with whatever we're lifting as close to us as possible. We want to come too far away from our body line. So, again, I'm thinking about my back, I'm thinking about my posture throughout the motion, and also using my legs to drive me off the ground. I'm going to add a little bit of an element though. This is much heavier than my keys. So, as a result, I want to also think about what things can I do to keep myself upright throughout the motion so I'm not going to put my back in jeopardy. And the easiest one is to take a breath while I'm descending and then hold that breath until I come back to the top. By putting oxygen into our abdomen using our diaphragm, we essentially create an artificial girdle or belt to protect us. So I'm not wearing a belt right now, but I know if I'm breathing correctly, I will manage to do this safely and be braced properly. So I'm going to take a nice deep breath. And let it out at the top. That way through the entire motion, I was nice and braced. In addition, you notice that I didn't bend over to pick it up so much as I squatted down to grab onto the handle. The nice thing is kettlebells have a handle. They're easy to pick up, they're easy to hold on to. But it has some more mass to it than our keys certainly did. So we still want to keep it close to our body while we're doing the lift. And the same thing when we put it back down. We want to make sure we're braced. We have a little bit of air in our lungs and definitely in our diaphragm. And then we descend, keeping our back at the correct angle. And there we go. We managed to not hurt ourselves, and we're halfway through the various gimmicks here. So let's make it a little more advanced now. All right, now we're going to lift a barbell. So this is significantly heavier than obviously my keys, but also than the kettlebell. This is 135 pounds. It's not a ridiculous amount of weight, but it's enough that we do need to think about it. So as a result, we're going to be adding additional elements to make sure that we're safe throughout the motion. So when I picked up the kettlebell, I took a deep breath. I'm going to add a little bit to this. So much like before, first things first, I'm making sure I'm as close to the weight as I can possibly be and still lift it up. The barbell adds a little challenge because it could hit your knees. So if you deadlift a lot, you probably know exactly how far to start from the barbell. If you don't, I would recommend starting around midfoot, so the barbell hovers over my midfoot. The next thing I'm going to do, much like before, is I'm going to find a way to grab the bar and keep it as close to my body as possible and use my breath. But I'm going to add to this. This is heavier. So what I really need to do now is also maintain tension throughout my entire upper body. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach down, grab the bar just outside my shins, keeping it close to my body. I'm going to then essentially trust fall backwards, which will add tension all the way from my neck down to the floor. So I'm essentially a loaded spring before I then use my legs to push the floor away from me and lift it up. The whole time, the barbell will stay close to me. And of course, before I do this, I'm going to take a nice deep breath. I'm going to hold it until I'm not in motion. So I'm going to find my spot. I'm going to come down and let's pick this up. So I've lifted it up. I can breathe for a second. I've kept it close to my body. Now I'm going to take another deep breath in and bring it to the floor. I'm not going to let my back round and get lazy as I'm bringing it back to the floor. So that is how we safely execute a deadlift. Now we'll get into much more detail on the cues. I'm actually thinking generally about a half dozen different things while I'm doing an actual deadlift workout. But in a short version, use your breath to brace you, build some tension in your upper body, take all the slack out of your upper body and your legs, and use your feet and legs to push the floor away from you. So again, I'm lifting with my legs. I'm not lifting with just by leaning backwards with my back. I'm actually using my legs. So again, I'm finding my spot close. I'm going to grab it close to my shins, take a nice deep breath, take all the tension out of my body, and come to the top. And up I come, take a nice deep breath. Notice that in the camera I'm actually symmetrical, and take another nice deep breath and bring it down. That's how we lift a barbell. Okay, in our everyday lives, you pick up things like your keys. In your everyday lives, you might pick up things more similar to the kettlebell. They have some weight to them, but they at least are easy to hold on to. And if you go to the gym, there's a good chance you've picked up a barbell at one point or another with some weight on it, whether it be to deadlift, to curl, whatever. So now the other thing that a lot of us do, even though we hate to admit it, lifting something awkward. So this is a 100-pound slam ball. It's heavy, it's very low to the ground, and unlike even the barbell, there's no handle. So we really have to work to make sure our back is in a safe position throughout the motion. What I'm going to do is I'm going to be thinking the same cues as before. I'm going to make sure I'm using my breath. I'm going to make sure that I'm coming down and trying to keep my back in as safe a position as possible, and then using my legs to actually do the lift. I will only release the breath when I'm at a point where I feel that my brace can be released, so I will not bend forward or lose any of the tension in my upper body. So let's lift us a slam ball. So I'm going to get close to it, much like before. My back is tempted to round because it is so low. So I'm going to really try to get low underneath it. And there are things you think about it, big boxes, for example, filled with books that essentially are like lifting this. They're heavy, they're low, they're awkward. You can't necessarily get your arms around them depending on the shape and the size. So again, these kinds of cues can be very helpful for everyday things, such as, I don't know, unpacking the top of your closet. So, take a nice deep breath. All right, we've lifted 100 pounds. We did so without hurting our back. Now we want to put it down. Another nice deep breath. Again, we used our legs both to get it off the ground and to put it back. So, we've used 4 different tools to demonstrate really the consistency you should use when lifting any size or weight of item. Obviously, the heavier and more awkward, the more you have to think about and the more care you need to take. Until then, stay safe, be careful, but have great workouts.